In this video, we're going to be talking about a block that can be placed but not broken, walked through, and also be replaced with other blocks. Hello everybody, my name is Christian Quick, and welcome back to another video. Now, originally I was going to make advanced blocks, which is a block with its own class, but then I realized I really should probably talk about block settings. Block settings are the settings that you can put on a block that can be put on every single block that you have. So I feel like because that's more specific, before we start getting to advanced stuff, that's some really thing. My problem is there are 37 settings in this current update that we have, and that would be a lot to go into one video. So I'm going to split them up into little categories, and today we're going to be going over the air category and stuff that I feel like kind of flips in with a bunch of air stuff. So the first thing we're going to need to do is we're going to be making a new block, and let's just call this air. And we are going to call this air, without the N. And then, before I get into all this, we're going to need to make a couple of things. Every time I add an item, I'm going to want to add it to my mod item group, so we're going to control D and then add air. This will allow us to see it inside of our creative inventory. I did mention that you could do this with your entries. I would also suggest, because it's actually still registering the item group with nothing in it, I would suggest doing /* and then go to the end. If I hit enter, it's going to do it for me, but if you do */, it'll comment everything that is inside of that, inside the stars. Another thing, every time we make a brand new block, we're going to make the required block assets that every block needs, which is simply going to be a block state, model, and texture. And although a lang is not necessary, it's very well suggested. So let's go around, and I'm going to hover over this. We're going to hold control, go over it, and then I'm going to say air. And then I'm just going to replace this last block with air, because this first block is talking about the block file name inside of models, which is that. So then let's go over here, and we're going to call this air. And we're doing the same thing, air. And then we're also going to need the item, same, air. And then we're going to call this air. Last thing we need to work on is a texture. This one's going to be really simple and easy. So let's go on here. Let's make a file, new 16 by 16, and then just export the nothingness of air. Let's do pictures so that I can recognize it pretty easy. We'll say air, export. Export, good. And then we can just close out of it. And then here we have our air block, so I'm just going to copy that into my textures here, and if I click on it, it should be completely empty. However, if I load it in the game, it should be completely black, so I do need to go into my HMH client, and then I need to go over here and control D, and then type in air. And now it will fill in the whole thing to be cut out. Let's close all tabs. And oh, I said all the other ones. Let's go back to our blocks. And now everything should be all set with this air block. Now, before I put in the air function, let's just see what the block looks like on its own. Alright, here we are in our beautiful Minecraft world. So all I'm going to do is we're going to go into our creative inventory, go in the next page, and although I don't see the block, it is there if I hover over it. Oh, I forgot to add the lang file, silly me. I don't care. We're just going to go into here, and we have our blocks.air, and if I place it on the ground, I can see through the world. I also forgot to add the non-opaque. We should do that every time we make a block, but we're going to pretend by doing this. So now we have this floating block. We're going to fix the errors that we have accidentally made, and then let's go back into the block. Obviously, I cannot go through it. It is a solid block right now, so let's fix all the problems, turn it into air, and then let's see what air does. Let's also put the sand right underneath it so that we can tell when we're looking at it. There's a reason. All right, so time to fix our problems. This is why we this is why we look at everything before we jump straight into it. So we got the lang file. We'll go into here. Let's control it D, and then let's make an A air block, put a little comma, and then we're gonna call it air. Perfect, just like that. So that issue's been solved. The other one that we wanted to add was dot non-opaque. And now let's add dot air. Place your bets on what you think dot air does. All right, let's put the sand down here in a line, and we know that it is at the end there in that little darkness. You can see a little darkness. So if you think air will let you pass through the block, you're wrong. You are completely wrong. Air does this really cool thing sometimes where like it will like make double shadows. Right now it's not doing it, but sometimes it does make double shadows underneath the block. Right now it's fine. What air does, now you're saying, well, if air doesn't let me go through it, what? Oh, there it is. There's the double shadows. There's a double. Oh wait, maybe it's because I don't know. I'm just crazy. Ignore me. All right. So what does air do? Now that I know it doesn't let me flow through it. Air is talking about the space that a player can mess with. So here is a solid block with the black outline, and I can place and break as much as I want. We know that we put the air on top of the sand, right? But if I look at above the sand, there's nothing there. It suddenly gets rid of the black outline. So if I have the black outline and I look on top of the block, it's because I'm looking at the top of the sand. Now, although we can look at the sand, if I look at the air block on top of it, it means that I cannot break the sand, or it looks like it is refusing me to break it. And what's crazy enough is that actually I'm in creative, so this is like a barrier block that even a creative person cannot mess with. So if air doesn't let me just fall right through it, what do I have to do to the block to let me just fall right through it, as if it were just, air? If I add dot no collision, that is what you're going to want to do to make it so that I can now see through the block. And I'm going to do is get rid of dot air for a moment, and we're also going to add another one at the end here called dot replaceable. Because in the current version that we have, if I try and place a sand block here, I can place it, but I can't place it where the air is. If I try and put it on top of the air block, it seems that there is some sort of problem. Let's refresh the game, and it is now going to get rid of the air, and we will now have a no collision replaceable block. Now, when I think of air, this is what I think air should be. I think air should be a block that you can place, and you kind of go through it, And then if I want, the replaceable allows me to put a block in its place, and also if I let it just fall onto it, so it's right there, right? There's the air. It will just fall right through it because it's air, and then it will replace it. So I guess all air really is in the block settings is simply making a block that you can't break. So since I took away the air block, I can put a block on top of a block. I can see what block I'm looking at. I will be able to replace the block, and actually that replaced both of them, funny enough. And I can just break it by hand. So air does not let light pass through, while non-collision does let light pass through. There are certain settings in which some are stronger than others, and they will override one on top of the other, but either way, one of them will have to win over the other one. Having them both on there, the non-collision will let light pass through and will override despite air usually not letting light pass through. So in this case, non-collision is the stronger of the two block settings. Oh, this looks wrong. This is Steve with slim arms. This is wrong. Alright, so since we now have air, I can no longer break it because that's what air does. I will still be able to collide through it, and I can also no longer tell when I'm necessarily looking at I can tell when I'm looking at it in a sense because of all of the black lines of the other blocks just stop when I look in this direction, but I can override it still with the replaceable, as well as being able to walk through it, and I can seamlessly walk through it, so it is perfectly fine. But with that in mind, that is going to be the end of this little block settings with the air tutorial, or not necessarily air tutorial, but just the very beginning of block settings. I think I have about 7 videos. They're all going to be packed, and they're all going to have about like 3 that somehow mess with each other. So just kind of be on the looks for that. And after that, we're going to get straight into advanced blocks. Another announcement that I'd also like to make is that content might start slowing down. It might not be day-to-day processing. So if you notice that it's no longer day-to-day processing, please don't freak out. But with that in mind, if you have any questions, you can ask me down in the comments below. But that's going to be it for this video. So thank you guys so much for watching, and without further ado,